In this video, we'll have an introduction to Azure DevOps, GitHub and GitHub Actions, and Azure DevTest Labs. In this video, I'd like to talk about the DevOps services. And you can see that we can get to it using the DevOps starter. Now, this is a collection of SaaS development services. So you can see on the screen some of the languages that it supports. So, for example, ASP.NET, PHP, Python, C, and Ruby on Rails. So once you have got this series of development suites, you can go to the project homepage and get access to all 5 of these development services. First of all, we have got Azure Repos. This is a central source code library. So here, the code can be published for review and collaboration. Then we've got Azure Boards. So this is an agile project management suite. So here you can see, for instance, I can put in a bug title, an error, if problem that needs solving in my code, say what the priority, the severity is, how long it will take, that sort of thing. Now, pipelines is part of the CI/CD. So, lots of C's there. CI, continuous integration. CD, continuous development. It can also be continuous deployment. So it's a methodology for building and testing and deploying your code. We then have artifacts. So this is a library of artifacts such as compiled source code, which can be used in pipeline steps. And then we've got test plans. So this is a tool used in a CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration, continuous development, continuous deployment, to ensure quality. So these services are highly customizable, more focused on enterprise development, and they have good project management and project planning tools like the Azure boards, and with good access control. So it's got granular permissions, so it's not just read and write. It's got better, more detailed permissions than that. So Azure DevOps services, this is a SaaS collection of development tools. Now, services like DevOps integrate with repositories, so libraries, and one of the most famous ones is GitHub. Now, this is a decentralized source code management host. So it's a library, it's a shared code library. So you can host and review code, manage projects, and build software. It allows for project management. The more advanced versions enable project management, for instance. Now, it also can have issue reporting, discussion, and tracking features. And just like the Azure DevOps services, it has a CI/CD pipeline automation tool called GitHub Actions. Now, this allows for workflows to be automated. So workflows being individual actions which run after events occur. The actions include triggers for many events, including automating a CI/CD tool chain. So this is the output of one tool in a tool chain being the input into the next. Now, GitHub is more focused, I would say, on open source code and individual contributors, individual developers contributing to the open source code. It has lightweight project management and reporting. The permissions are not granular at all. It's only read and read-write. And issues can be categorized using tags. So this is GitHub. This is a decentralized source code management host, and GitHub Actions allow for workflows in a CI/CD toolchain to be automated. So if you're comparing and contrasting GitHub with DevOps services, then I would say GitHub is more open source code related, whereas Azure DevOps Services is more focused on project management, planning tools, and enterprise development. GitHub is the permissions, they are generally read and read-write, though they are trying to expand that. Azure DevOps Services, it's more focused on granular permissions. So if I go back to the test plans of DevOps Services, you can see you are currently logged in as a user with basic access level. That's this granular permission level I was talking about earlier. So GitHub and GitHub Actions. In this video, I'm going to talk about DevTest Labs, so Development Test Labs. So this manages the process of creating and eliminating VMs, or it could be other Azure services created within an ARM template. That's the Azure Resource Manager. So if I create a quick lab here, you can see that these lab tests can be created. You can specify for how long, and you can also specify that they can be auto shut down, thus reducing costs. You can also send notifications before the auto shutdown. So if I create this DevTest Labs, so I'll just pause the video until it's created. So now it's complete, we'll go to the resource and we can add a virtual machine. So these test labs are for testing and developing. They can be pre-configured and they can use either Windows or Linux. So you can say how many labs you want to be created for how long, and as you've seen, you can also auto shut down the VMs, thereby reducing costs. Additionally, you can also deprovision the VMs after testing is complete. So you can see that I would be able to claim virtual machines and then once I've finished with them, hand them back. There are two special roles that you might want to be interested in. First of all, there is the lab owner. The lab owner has access to all of the resources in a lab, and there's also a lab user. They can view all lab resources, but they can't modify VM policies. In other words, what sort of VMs you can create, auto shutdown, auto start, that sort of thing. And they can't modify VMs, virtual machines created by other users. So this is the Azure DevTest Labs. It manages the process of creating and eliminating virtual machines. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video so far. Coming up, we'll have a quiz to see how much you can remember. Now, if you want to learn more about Microsoft Azure, then please go to our website, idodata.com. You can find more information about our AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals course, which includes cloud concepts, core services, solutions and migration, management and security features, and ID, identity, and governance features. And also have a look at our DP900 Microsoft Azure Data Fundamentals, which looks at databases, both relational, semi-structured, and non-relational, together with additional topics. And these courses and many more are available on our website, idodata.com. So let's have a look at the quiz for this video. So question 1. I want to use a sophisticated project management tool. Which service do I want to use? Azure DevOps Services, GitHub, or Azure DevTest Labs? And the right answer, Azure DevOps Services. GitHub includes a lightweight project management tool, and Azure DevTest Labs doesn't include any project management tools. Question 2. Which of these is not a part of CI/CD? Continuous integration, continuous identification, continuous delivery, or continuous deployment? And the correct answer is continuous identification. Nothing to do with CI/CD. Question 3. Which of these is not a feature of Azure DevTest Labs? Virtual machines can be pre-configured. You cannot set limits on the number of virtual machines used. And you can deprovision virtual machines after the testing is complete. So which is not a feature of Azure DevTest Labs? And the answer is, you cannot set limits on the number of machines used. Yes, you can. Question 4. I'm writing some open source code that I want to share. What tool should I use? Azure DevTest Labs, HD Insight, GitHub, or Azure Marketplace? And the answer is GitHub. So Azure DevTest Labs manages the process of creating and eliminating virtual machines, HD Insight processes big data, and the Azure Marketplace is a selection of Azure services. Final question. I want a source code repository which allows for more granular permissions than merely read and write. Which service should I use? GitHub, Azure DevTest Labs, Azure DevOps Services, or Azure Sphere? And the correct answer is Azure DevOps Services. GitHub only has read and write permission, while Azure DevTest Labs manages the process of creating and eliminating virtual machines. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then please like it. And why not subscribe and click that bell? That way you'll be notified about any new videos. It really does help. If you want to find out more about Microsoft Azure, then please click on the playlist on the end screen. And if you want to find out more about our courses, please go to our website. I'm Philip Burton of idodata.com. Thanks for watching and keep learning.